Good afternoon or good evening. For those of you who are in Florida, it's 5:17 p.m. and I'm here to read Pinocchio, Classics to Grow On. And of course, I'll be updated on YouTube. We're on chapter 4, where the talking cricket. I just want to let you guys know that the weather's doing great. Today was a little bit of rain, and it stopped. And now it's such a beautiful sunny day. But don't forget to walk outside with your copper tone. Okay? So here we are on chapter 4, the talking cricket. The talking cricket. And now, children, let me tell you how. While poor Geppetto was being taken to jail through no fault of his own, the rogue of a Pinocchio, freed by the policeman, ran across country in order to get home quickly. In his great haste, he leaped over high walls and jumped ditches full of water, exactly like a rabbit that is chased by the hunters. When he reached home, he found the street door open. He entered, fastened the door behind him, and then sat down on the ground with a high sigh of relief. But his contentment did not last long. For presently he heard a voice in the room saying, "Creak, creak, creak." "Who's that?" demanded Pinocchio. "It is I." Pinocchio turned around and saw a large cricket crawling up upon the wall. "Tell me, cricket, who are you?" "I am the talking cricket, and I have lived in this room over 100 years. "But the room belongs to me now," said the puppet. "And if you want to do me a favor, you will go at once without looking back." "I will not go away until I've told you a great truth," answered the cricket. "Tell it then, and be quick about it. It will go hard with boys who do not mind their parents and who run away from home. They will never have any good luck, and sooner or later they will be sorry. Sing on, cricket, if you want to. But I'm going to leave here the first thing in the morning, because I know if I stay, the same thing will happen to me that happens to other boys. I shall have to go to school and be made to study. And between us, I don't care to study. I intend to play and to amuse myself by climbing trees and robbing birds' nests." Poor little stupid. Don't you know that by doing thus, you will make a donkey of yourself and that everybody will laugh at you? "Be still, croaking cricket," cried Pinocchio. But the cricket, who was wise and did not like such rudeness, continued in the same tone of voice. "If you dislike the idea of going to school, why not learn some trade so that you could earn an honest bit of bread?" "Shall I tell you why?" replied Pinocchio impatiently. "Then know that there is only one trade in the world that would really suit me." "And what trade is that?" "That of eating, drinking, sleeping, playing, and leading an easy life all day long." "That way of doing," said the talking cricket calmly, "always leads to a bad end. Be careful, croaking cricket. If you make me angry, look out for yourself. For Pinocchio, I pity you." "Why do you pity me?" "Because you're only a puppet. And what is worse, you're a blockhead. At this last word, Pinocchio sprang up in a rage and seizing a heavy wooden mallet from the workbench, he threw it at the talking cricket. Perhaps he didn't really intend to hit it, but by ill luck it struck the cricket on the head so that it had only time to cry, "Creak, creak, creak." Then it was left sticking to the wall. Chapter 5. Pinocchio suffers from hunger. In the meantime, curious. In the meantime, came night came on, and Pinocchio, remembering that he had eaten nothing, began to feel not gnawing. It's actually gnawing in his stomach. That was a good deal like an appetite. Now appetites with boys grow very quickly, and in a few minutes it became a real hunger, and the hunger grew till it was like that of a wolf. Pinocchio ran over to the hearth where the bean pot was boiling away, and tried to take off the lid to see what was inside. But the pot was only painted on the wall. Imagine his surprise. His long nose grew at least 4 inches longer. Then he began to run around the room, searching through all the drawers and boxes for so much as a crust of bread, a bone for a dog, a cherry stone, anything to eat, but couldn't find the least thing. And all the time his hunger grew and kept on growing. Poor Pinocchio. Poor Pinocchio could do nothing but yawn. He was that empty, and his mouth stretched so that it reached to where his ears ought to be. He had a terribly vacant feeling. He began to weep and to wail and said, "The talking cricket was right. I was naughty to disobey my father and run away. If my father were only here now, I should not be dying from hunger. Oh, how bad I feel." Oh, at this moment, behold, he saw over in the shaving something that looked round and white, like a hen's egg. At once he jumped for it and seized it. It was really an egg. The joy of the puppet is beyond description. Almost fearing it was a dream, he turned the egg over and over in his hands, patting and kissing it. "How shall I cook it?" he said. "Shall I make an omelet, or shall I fry it in a pan? Perhaps I'd better boil it. No, the quickest way will be to cook it in the pan. I am in such a hurry to eat." At once he set about it. He started a little fire and put the pan over it. Instead of butter or oil, he used a little water. And when the water began to smoke, crack! He broke the shell and held the egg over the pan. But instead of the egg's white and yolk, out jumped a little chicken, gay and lively. He who made him a bow and said, "A thousand thanks for Pinocchio for having saved me the trouble of breaking my shell. Pray, give my regards to your family." And saying this, it spread its wings and flew through the window out of sight. The puppet stood motionless, and staring eyes, open mouth, and the broken egg shell still in his hands. Then, when he began to recover, he set up a loud howling and beat upon the ground. "Oh, talking cricket, you were right," he cried. "If only I hadn't run away. If only my father were here. I shall starve to death. I know I shall. And as his stomach kept on hurting and he didn't know what else to do, he decided to go out and run to the village, not far away, in the hope to find some kind-hearted person who would give him a bit of bread. Whew. Chapter 6. We can go on chapter 6 tomorrow, okay? Actually, I'll just do chapter 6 right now. Let me get some water. Pinocchio burns his feet off. Chapter 6. It happened to be a stormy night. The thunder crashed, the lightning was so constant that the whole sky seemed ablaze, and a strong wind swept along a cloud of dust and shook every tree in the countryside. Pinocchio was dreadfully afraid of the thunder and lightning, but his hunger was stronger than his fear. He opened the door, darted out, and in 100 leaps reached the village out of breath and with his tongue hanging out of his mouth like a hunter's dog. But he found everything silent and deserted. The shops were closed and the house doors closed, the windows closed, and there wasn't even a dog in the streets. It seemed like a city of the dead. In despair, Pinocchio rang the bell of the first house he came to, saying to himself, "Someone will surely answer." Pretty soon an old man with a nightcap on his head looked out of a window and called gruffly, "What do you want at his hour of the night? Would you be good enough to give him something to eat?" "Wait a moment, and I will be back," replied the old man, who thought that he was dealing with one of the street urchins who amused themselves by ringing doorbells at night to rouse people out of their beds. In about half a minute he returned and said to Pinocchio, "Come under the window and hold up your hat." Pinocchio had not yet owned a hat, but he drew close to the house when a torrent of water from a large pitcher drenched him from head to foot. There was nothing to do but go back home, wet as chicken, and tired and hungry. He threw himself down on a chair and rested his wet feet on the stove full of live coals. There he fell asleep, and while he snored away, his feet, being of wood, soon became charred, then began to smoke and finally burned clear off. But Pinocchio only slept and snored as though his feet belonged to somebody else. Along toward morning he was awakened by a knocking at the door. "Who is it?" he asked, yawning and rubbing his eyes. "It is I," replied a voice. It was the voice of Geppetto. Okay, we're going to stop right there. So Geppetto came back, and we're on chapter 5, 6, 7. We're on chapter 7. Thank you, guys. And this time Pinocchio will have his hat on. Okay? Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Happy Father's Day and happy birthdays to all. And have all a good night.